Welcome to another Patreon-sponsored episode of The Basics. The subject of this week's episode, Beast Wars Uprising, was chosen by Jim Sorensen, co-author of the Transformers Animated Allspark Almanacs, the ARC art books, and more. The reason he picked Beast Wars Uprising will become apparent shortly. So what is Beast Wars Uprising? Well, it's another creation of Fun Publications, the company that ran the official Transformers convention, BotCon, and the Collectors Club from 2005 to 2016. Most Beast Wars stories spin off in some way from the events of the Beast Wars cartoon, but Beast Wars Uprising is the major exception. It's an alternate universe that's completely different to the world we know from the animated series, pitched as Beast Wars meets the Hunger Games. You see, in the cartoon backstory, the Autobot-Decepticon war ended with an Autobot victory followed by centuries of peace. In the world of Beast Wars Uprising, on the other hand, there was no winner. Expelled from Earth by the united forces of humanity and left confined to Cybertron, the Transformers conflict ground on interminably until their homeworld became so drained of energy that they could no longer power their bodies, leaving them a frozen race of living statues, with only the smallest among them, like mini-cassettes and micromasters, able to retain their mobility. Thus it was that the proto-races, the Maximals and Predacons, were created, a next generation of smaller, more energy-efficient Cybertronians who could function in these energy-starved times, who the Autobots and Decepticons used as proxy armies to continue the war in their place. But as the centuries passed, the fighting withered away, and a new society took shape on the ruined, stagnant planet. The Autobots and Decepticons allied to become the planet's ruling oligarchs, collectively referred to as the Builders, with the Micromasters as their enforcers, and the Maximals and Predacons as a civilian underclass, kept in line by the Games, televised gladiatorial blood sports in which the Builders periodically forced them to compete. This world was introduced in 2008 as part of the backstory for new versions of the Beast-era characters Blackarachnia and Nightscream, who had fled their home dimension and were appearing in background roles in the comic strip that was running in the club-exclusive magazine at the time. A profile for Blackarachnia revealed that, in their home universe, the pair had been members of a resistance against the Builders, led by Cheetor. The Uprising world wouldn't be mentioned again until 2013, when Fun Publications began revisiting it in conjunction with a series of new exclusive toys made available to club members. First was Depth Charge, who came free with the purchase of a club membership that year. He travelled from dimension to dimension, searching for the fugitive Blackarachnia and Nightscream. Next, in 2014, came Transmutate and Rampage. Transmutate had appeared in an episode of the Beast Wars cartoon as a damaged, misshapen Transformer who Rampage befriended. But Beast Wars Uprising provided a venue to explore what she might have been like had she not been damaged. And so the pair met again for the first time in the first actual story set in the Uprising universe, Alone Together, a comic published in that year's Club magazine. Stranded on an alien world, they faced down the menace of Lord Imperius Delirious and his Destructons, obscure villains from the 1987 comic book Transformers in 3D. Later in 2014, there was the Autobot mini-cassette Eject, released as part of the club's figure subscription service. And in 2015, the membership figure was Lio Convoy, the Uprising incarnation of the Maximal Commander from the Japanese exclusive series Beast Wars 2nd. Eject ran the games, and Lio Convoy was his right-hand bot, fixing their outcomes to maintain a balance that placated the populace. To accompany the release of the Lio Convoy toy, Jim Sorensen, I told you we'd get back to him, was brought on board to write a prose story that would be made available on the club website. By his own admission, Sorensen was at first unconvinced by the Beast Wars meets the Hunger Games premise, but found inspiration for how to approach the subject in the 2014 Ferguson unrest, which led him to craft the story around the idea of a marginalised people rising up to protest abuse at the hands of a corrupt authority. The resultant story, Broken Windshields, sees Blackarachnia return to Uprising Cybertron and open Lio Convoy's eyes to the injustice of the Builders' regime. Realizing the error of his ways, Lio Convoy declares open revolt, assuming command of the Resistance and setting the stage for the stories that would follow. Over the next 2 years, Sorensen, together with co-writer David Bishop, produced 11 more prose stories, set against the backdrop of the Resistance's 6-year war with the Builders. These stories defined Beast Wars Uprising, each focusing on a different group of characters and painting one of the darkest, most morally ambiguous pictures of war seen in the Transformers franchise, with both sides committing atrocities and spending countless lives in the pursuit of victory. Flowing out of Sorensen's initial inspiration, each story is titled after a social sciences concept, which is both explored as theme and given a literal double meaning. Like Trigger Warnings, a crime noir in which the murder of a Micromaster leads Maximal Cop Wolfang to a conspiracy to revive outlawed Target Master technology. Or Safe Spaces, in which the supposed safe haven of Resistance-held territory comes under threat from within. Both the story of Rampage and Transmutate and the threat of Imperius Delirious are revisited, and though other notable cast members from the original Beast Wars cartoon do appear, most of the focus is on more obscure characters who have never had starring roles before, like Stiletto, Buzzclaw, and Snapper, with several of these lesser knowns later being brought together by the Oracle supercomputer to form the vigilante hero team, the X-Bots, and contend with the threat of the dimension-hopping Monster GoBots. The stories are also full of Sorensen's trademarks, like coded messages including entire secondary hidden stories, and deep-cut references to the obscurities of Transformers lore. Characters and concepts from the Beast era and beyond are thrown into a blender, flipping around names and genders and freely importing characters from other continuities, repurposing Minicons as Micromasters, and animalistic characters like robots in disguise as Steeljaw and Thunderhoof as Maximals and Predacons. Despite the title, since the stories are set on Cybertron, the characters don't actually have beast modes for much of the series. Instead, they borrow the designs of pre-existing toys of other characters to represent their Cybertronian vehicle forms. Some of these borrowed designs were considered for release as exclusive toys at BotCon 2016, but when the planned Uprising theme for the convention was dropped, these ideas were shelved. Save for Galva Convoy, an evil clone of Lio Convoy created by Eject following the original's betrayal, based on a purple recolor of the original Lio Convoy toy from 1998. One further Uprising toy that saw release was Scorponok, as part of the final year of the figure subscription service. Fun Publications requested Sorensen and Bishop write a story about the toy, and this became Identity Politics, which shows through Scorponok's eyes the rise to power of this universe's Beast Wars Megatron, from white-collar criminal to crime lord. In the latter stages of Beast Wars Uprising, seeking a way to free the proto-races from their dependency on Energon, Megatron funded the development of the Beast Upgrade, which finally granted Maximals and Predacons the ability to transform into animals. Towards the end of 2016, the Club magazine presented a supposed origin for the Beast Wars Uprising timeline in the screencap comic A Change to the Agenda, which posited that it was created when Beast Wars Megatron succeeded where he had failed in the Beast Wars cartoon, and altered history by killing Optimus Prime, only for Black Arachnia to kill the original Megatron in return, warping history further. Such details didn't really line up with what Sorensen and Bishop's stories had already established of the universe's history, so you can kind of ignore this one. Beast Wars Uprising reached its climax with the novel-length Derailment, in which the Resistance is pushed to the brink of defeat by the Builders' newest weapon, the implacable forces of the Viacons, created by Galva Convoy. An epilogue, The Inexorable March, offered a glimpse of the Uprising universe's post-war future, but its future in the real world is harder to predict. Though there are an infinite number of stories that could still be told in its world, with Fun Publications no longer holding the Transformers license, it's tough to say if Beast Wars Uprising will ever be revisited in official form. For now though, it stands as a unique piece of work, complete with a beginning, a middle and an end, that I hope this episode has encouraged you to check out. And those are the basics on Beast Wars Uprising. Check the notes below for a link to where you can read Jim and David's 12 stories online. Start with broken windshields and go forward from there. Thanks again to Jim for sponsoring this episode, and come back next time as we take a look at the history of Jetfire.